that's what an artist has to do. You have to have the guts to kill your children.
I've killed many with this movie, so yes. I didn't know that's where this conversation would go, but there you have it.
That's the whole reason I'm having you here. I want to be kind of a godfather to your kids. You were on Politically Incorrect, right?
I was.
Do you remember that sign behind you?
Yes. I mean, it looks very much of the era that it was when we filmed it.
You mean the font? Is
Yeah.
That a 90s font?
Yeah, exactly. It screams 90s.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that the kids who are watching are like, yeah, that's a million years ago. It's funny because 90s, I was old enough where that was sort of like, 60s is my 90s.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, real different.
It might have been early 2000s, but it was still trickling.
No, it was the 90s. I mean, that was...
No, but I'm saying, like, I graduated high school in 93. I think I was on with you when I was a grown-up, so maybe it was a different sign.
That was the year the show started.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Well, you were on Blossom.
I was on Blossom, correct. Yeah, till 95 or so.
What's it like to be a child star?
It's weird.
I'll bet it is. I can't even imagine.
I mean, there's different ways that people are child stars. Some of them start when they're 3. That was not my story. So I was very startled by it. I started acting when I was 11.
Oh, well, yeah.
I was like a wise old 11-year-old.
Well, I mean, you are wise. That's your, I mean.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Well, you're like known as like I always think when they cover Jeopardy, like they cover it like it is the summit between Hirohito and Napoleon.
People are like, do you know all that stuff? I'm like, no, that's actually not my job. I have to pronounce it.
But there is an interest in it that goes so far beyond, obviously, the people who watch it.
Yeah.
Because the only people who watch it are people who know things, which is like a category of knowledge, knowing
it's
things.
It's very, very special knowledge.
That is shrinking. It didn't used to be. No, really. I feel like when I was a kid, there was something called common knowledge.
Yeah.
Which extended not just to, don't let roaches breed in the paper bags, but like, basically how many people were on Earth,
right.
The 7 continents, how a bill becomes a law,
right.
Knowing things, which I feel like is so out of style now.
It's very out of style. But, also, I've been surprised
but not on your show.
No, but I've been surprised at the number and the type of people that do seem to enjoy Jeopardy. I watch it with my grandmother.
Sure, of course.
And my grandparents wouldn't have watched Jeopardy. That wasn't their jam,
I love when people tell me that they watch it with a family member. No, really, my show. I feel like, wow. Not that I'm, solving world problems, but the idea of people having a communal show, like when I was a kid, we all did. I mean, we all had to because there was not that many channels.
There's also not much to do in the world.
No. There was only...
Like at night, you would watch TV.
Well, of course, there was no internet.
That's what I mean.
Certainly didn't want to talk to your family.
No, so you would watch a show and everybody would go to bed.
But honestly, I also feel like there was great love and communion that happened within the family because you were communally enjoying something.
Yes.
You just feel it. You don't have to say it.
Yeah.
You're watching Ed Sullivan, Alan King comes on.
Right.
The parents like him, and me as a young kid looking to be a comedian, we're like, okay, he's a little corny, but no, Alan King was hip,
Yeah.
He kind of, he had the old Borscht Belt way, but he was a hip guy.
My grandparents watched Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, of course.
Which they pronounced Velk.
Right.
Lawrence Welk.
Okay. Yeah, but I feel like when somebody says to me, like you said, I watch it with my mother, or, it's my father's favorite show, or whatever. My kid, sometimes I get, my son is, 16 and he loves you. I'm like, oh, okay, so he's not a typical 16, right? Just like your show. It's like, oh, this dwindling sect of people in the country who know things.
Right.
Like there is still stuff for them.
Correct. Jeopardy is for people who still want to know things. That should be their new ad campaign.
Right. Even if you don't know the answers, of course you don't know all the answers. Well, I guess you do. Well,
I just have them in front of me.
Right, but you would do well, or did
No.
you? No.
So this is
no.
I think, no.
Come
no.
on.
First of all, answering things like that under pressure and with a timer, it's not going to happen for me.
I was on Celebrity Jeopardy.
It's hard.
I remember. Now this is. Oh my God. I'm thinking back to like I should have been more mature, but I don't know. I was like 40. And I remember I just wore a shirt that the network didn't like.
What was it?
It was like I probably came right from the club. It was like a club shirt.
What's a Bill Maher club shirt like?
1997.
Okay, I can imagine.
Oh God, don't ask. I mean,
Did they make you like put a blazer over it?
No, but I just remember. It's funny the things that stick in your mind, right? Like I remember very little about the show except that I remember thinking, what? I'm doing it, and I know the answer, and I can't win.
Yeah. And also, I have.
What is that?
Well, what do you mean? There's a rhythm, that winners, get into, and there's a huge psychological component of being psyched out, and if you get something wrong, can feel really debilitating. I would cry, I think. But the knowledge that I have is, it's not necessarily Jeopardy knowledge. There are categories, like obviously I'm trained in science, like I can feel pretty confident about the science categories. I am a crossword puzzle person. So sometimes there's crossword categories.
Love crossword.
I have a minor in Hebrew and Jewish studies, so like anything in that realm.
Right.
But it's a different kind of knowledge. Like 18th century British poets. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
There were definitely. I could do a little bit of. I remember a little bit of them. I mean, I was an English major.
Okay, so maybe you would do well with those.
Yeah, I mean. Could you confuse me if it was Shelley or Byron?
Well, that's exactly the point. You're going to get confused on Jeopardy by things like that.
Like, who? Oh, no, that's
not. You're already, see, that's already a problem. You will not be writing the questions.
The phrase, the desire of the moth for the star, was written by...
All right, show off. Okay.
Was written by this... 18th century,
there you go.
19th century
That's too many
British
words.
Poet.
Doesn't fit on the screen.
Who is it? Who is Shelley?
There
Percy
you go.
Bysshe Shelley.
Who is Shelley?
But see, what I've known in my years is that your mind, when you're sleeping or something, it moves the furniture. And so you can be so sure that you remember something accurately. And then it's like, no, it's Byron. I would have bet the house it was Shelley, but it's Byron.
Yeah, so that's,
And again, the vast majority of people out there are like, who are these two fucking assholes you're talking about? And that's what I'm saying. The people who know things.
That's right. Well, and care to still share them.
We send them a shout out of love to them because first of all, I feel maybe this is just instinct, but like to keep the world running and not, dying, I feel like this sect of people who know things, not just technically, but like wisdom-wise, is going to be helpful.
I try to avoid the news for the most part because I'm not a fan of how it comes at me and often what happens when I read it. But I do have, a team of people in my life, and we
have
a news updates channel on our messaging, and so. I hate to say it, but a lot of times they'll say like, "Oh, there was a shooting," or like, "God forbid," because then I know don't post something dumb. Like, don't be like, "Hey, here's me with my, cat." Whatever. Right. So the other day, 2 pieces of news came at me in one message. Biden is running again, and Harry Belafonte died.
Yes.
And at first, I was like, "Are these 2 things related?" The answer is no.
No. Well, first of all, here's a really interesting stat. Yes, the average age now, I like the media, whatever that they call that, where women are usually live a little longer than men.
Yes.
Right. So the average age for a woman is like 79 or something, and a man is 76 or something.
Right.
But here's the key one. If you make it past 40, the average age you live to is 86.
Wait, hold on.
Because what they're factoring in is people who die in childbirth.
Got it.
You get kicked by a horse when you're 6.
It happens.
It happens. It used to happen a lot.
Oh, wait, so say that again. If you live past
if you get to 40,
Got it.
then your average age to die at is 86. Isn't that a big difference? Doesn't that change your view
for
of
sure.
life? Aren't
Well,
you
this
glad
is-
you came here to
I'm
Club
very
Random?
Glad I came. It's indeed random, but statistics are important, and the way they're presented tells a very different story.
It just makes you think. I mean, I don't know.
Makes me think Biden's just going to be average at the end of his next term.
I wasn't even thinking about Biden. I was thinking about me. Okay.
Because we made it past 40,
Well,
both
fuck
of us.
Biden, right?
No, this is what I was when he was first elected. I had a couple people that I knew said, "I've got the inside tip. She's going to take over in a month."
Yeah, right.
And I was like, maybe that'll happen. It didn't happen, and now he's running again.
Not only did it happen,
Glad I
but
didn't listen to those
he
people.
doesn't sniff ladies' hair anymore. He doesn't molest small children.
Stop.
He doesn't do that head bump thing, that weird fucking cone head thing where I don't know what he was doing. But he used to be a very touchy-feely. I'm quite convinced there was nothing nefarious in it. He's just that guy.
Everybody should take a tip from, you've seen the Keanu Reeves pictures?
No. What?
He won't touch a woman in a picture.
Who?
Keanu Reeves, his arm is always hovering. You haven't seen this?
I don't blame him.
This is a thing you have to look up. Every picture of him, he's hovering.
You know where my hands are? I take pictures like this. Mine are so you can see my hands. Forget hovering.
This is a thing, and someone, whatever, you see things that people post. It's a thing, and there was a collection of photos where you could see that his hand, from the front, it would look like a lovely picture with you and Keanu Reeves. He's posing with this one, he's posing with that one, and the hand is a safe distance away.
Well, I mean, sometimes people do that for the relationship in their life. Like, I think Tom Hanks never.
Oh.
You never see him sucking face, right? No matter, think of every role he's done.
That's
there's never,
really interesting.
Some girl like cupping his balls in a scene. No.
I mean, I rewatched Splash recently. I think there's some kissing in that.
That may be before he was married.
Oh,
that was a long time ago.
You're right. I'm dating myself.
Well, I remember the movie quite well, yes, but you must have been a kid.
I saw that movie so many times. I love that movie.
Splash, but it was
not
when it was out in the theater. I saw it in the theater.
I mean, I was born in 1975. I don't remember what year Splash came out.
I believe, I'm going to say 82 or 4.
Yeah, I probably saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I guess you could. I'm sure.
And then it was like one that we would rent, and then I showed it to my kids recently, and I thought, boy, that doesn't really hold up in this climate, does it?
What do your kids think of a movie like that? Or Tom Hanks never kissing a woman on camera because he's so pussy whipped.
No, what was funny about, I don't know, well,
No, it's sweet.
I think, it was funny because it's kind of like when I first saw The Little Mermaid. I didn't see The Little Mermaid when it first came out.
I've never seen it.
Right. So I finally watched it as a grown-up, and I thought to myself, well, that's interesting.
What?
She gives up her life for a dude that she doesn't even know.
The mermaid does?
Yeah, and then she can't even walk when she gets on land.
What's the plot?
It's devastating.
What's the plot?
She's got this beautiful voice, and then she meets this guy.
Wait, she's a mermaid.
She's a mermaid,
So how does she meet the guy?
He's on a boat. I don't know. I don't remember.
Really?
So she has this unbelievable voice.
Doesn't he have to get in the water? She can't get out of the water, right?
She's peeking.
Wait,
this is really not the important part.
No,
of the story.
it is because this it has to be the important part because my guess is that every romantic story needs an obstacle. I'm guessing.
Okay, wait.
The obstacle is she needs to live underwater and he can't live underwater. Am I wrong?
You're 100% right. But the solution is if she gives up her voice, feminists, take note. She has this beautiful singing voice. If she gives up her voice, she can live on the land with him. But P.S., Hans Christian Andersen, she can't walk. So she's crippled, mute, and they fall in love.
She does it?
She can't speak, and they fall in love.
So at the end, she's living on land?
Right. So if you look at Splash, you realize, she can't speak.
So wait.
She's this mermaid who comes to life.
Okay, I'm interested in the end of this movie. Like, do we see her on land living the life?
I think so. I don't remember very well, but yeah.
Like they're in a two-bedroom.
But in the original story, she like her it is like walking on glass.
So they're looking like for a building with good ramps and like very.
No, in the animated
it's
version,
really up to code on disabled.
In the animated version, like I think everything's great and they live happily ever after because that's what we want. But in the original story, she gives up her voice. She lives on the land and like, look, I can love him, but also it feels like glass when you walk.
If they remade it, it would be if they sold it the way we sell movies now. I think it could do very well because she's a person with a disability.
She's a person with a disability. She's a woman with no voice. We got a lot of groups might like this the narrative of like how do we empower her?
We're checking a lot of boxes here. Let's do that.
You and me are redoing The Little Mermaid.
Here's how Hollywood works. Let's check the boxes first.
That's right.
Then we'll do a script. But the boxes first.
Poor Little Mermaid.
So the Little Mermaid. So she's living in this 2-bedroom in Van Nuys. It's a building with lots of
ramps.
It's very up to code on all the 1990 Disability Act, right? And then she works where? Because I want to do a sequel. Now that she's on land,
I think she's still mute.
That's the movie.
She's mute.
Okay, so what? Even better. Because again, disability. So she's mute, and she's they got a thing for her, right? She's got a wheelchair, but it's a little like a shopping cart to keep the fin.
I don't know.
Right, because you got the fin up there.
Poor Little Mermaid.
All right, so she's in the shopping cart wheelchair, and she can't talk, so she needs something. She needs a purpose. She's got to like go to work every day. They're on land. It's got to. What?
I don't know.
And then a complication, a romantic complication.
It's not complicated enough.
She meets the guy from Shape of Water because he's a fish.
Talk about full circle.
And they run away.
I like that. Now it's kind of sweet.
I'm telling you, I straighten out everyone's career.
You fixed it all.
I'm telling you, you could do this. So your kids love this movie.
No, I mean, when we watched Splash, they were a little bit surprised because for today's sensibility, a mute woman walking among us.
I very often have compared myself to the mermaid in Splash because, like, I'm not good at doing, like, everyday things. So,
okay.
And I don't understand whenever I see in the tabloids like these big celebrities coming out of Target or Ralph's or something, and I'm like, don't you people have an assistant? I do. The last place I ever want to be is at a fucking store, and so I'm not. So like sometimes I'm in a store or something, and then they're like, there's some new way to pay or something, and I feel like the mermaid in Splash.
Yeah,
I want to go. Show me, I don't get it.
That's me. Basically, every time I do try and go out into the world.
So, what other movies do you show your kids? Like, what other for the I'm very curious. How old are the kids?
14 and 17.
Oh, wow. So they're older.
They're older. I mean, we did the Star Wars experience.
But like, what important. From our era would they find still cool?
Not much.
I'm guessing not terms of endearment.
No, haven't done that yet.
What about Footloose?
No, you know what? I showed them. No, you know what? I showed them. Here's a strange. You don't want to talk about this.
Rain Man, Mom.
I showed them Life is Beautiful, Roberto Benigni.
Yeah.
And I showed them that, and they. I mean, it's hard to say like they liked it, but also it led to a lot of interesting conversations about what can you joke about, what can you not joke about.
Right.
Was he right to pretend that the Holocaust was a game for his child? Like these were interesting questions. Right. We just watched Kunk on Earth, which they loved. They have a very specific sense of humor, my kids, and they like satire. We like a lot of stand-up, is what we usually watch, the three of us.
What about a Holocaust film festival, like where you could show that and Schindler's List?
We haven't seen Schindler's List yet.
And what about the piano?
I was gonna say next is the piano.
You haven't seen that?
I've seen it.
They haven't?
They haven't seen it yet.
I think they're ready. And who would know better? A total stranger with no kids who just found out you have.
No, I think they are ready. Look, I grew up, my grandparents are immigrants from Eastern Europe. So I've seen a lot of Holocaust movies, not gonna lie.
Right.
I think they might be ready for the piano. I mean, it's a great movie. It's Adrian Brody. He's fantastic.
Not the piano.
What?
The pianist.
Oh, the piano. What did I say?
Isn't it? The piano.
Which
Isn't
is it?
It's the pianist.
Is it the pianist? The piano's the other one.
There is one, the piano.
I feel like we should both know because
It's,
it was Anna.
What is?
I'm going to stop guessing.
Who is?
It was a woman.
Who is the?
Am I right? Was Anna Paquin in it?
Anna Paquin.
Okay, I
Oh,
did
no,
it.
no. Yes, I think it is. Good, because I was thinking of something else.
The Pianist.
I think. I don't know.
Okay.
The Pianist is a great movie. That's
Adrian Brody.
No, but the director is.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember this motherfucker's name. I know. Roman Polanski. Who is
Was that
Roman
Oh,
Polanski?
dear.
You didn't know that?
I did at one point. Now I did again.
He is himself a Holocaust survivor.
That is true.
That is true.
There's a lot of other things about Roman Polanski that we probably don't need to talk about.
Absolutely. I've often used...
That's a polarizing figure.
Hey, Club Random fans, people in the comments have been asking why we don't have merch. Yes, we read them. I don't, but we have a guy for that. But bottom line, we have merch now. Last week, I begged Joe Biden not to be Ruth Bader Biden, and so we are kicking off with a Don't Be Ruth Bader Biden t-shirt. And there's cool new Club Random merch on there, too. T-shirts and hoodies and barware. There's even a Club Random herb grinder and rolling papers. Check it all out at clubrandom.com. Club Random is brought to you by the audio marketing gurus at Radioactive Media. The vacations are over, and now it's time to get back to work. Let me ask you, what are you doing to grow your business? Don't just use Google and social media when you can acquire new customers by partnering with shows like mine, elevating your brand. Wouldn't you like to generate up to 9 times more leads? You can when you combine the power of audio and video with text messaging. Club Random has been partnering with Radioactive Media with clients such as Signalwire, Heat Holders, Wine Enthusiast, Lumi Micro-Dosed Gummies, and they can customize a campaign for you. For a limited time, receive $1,000 toward your first campaign plus free text messaging by going to radioactivemedia.com or text the word RANDOM to 511-511. Discover how audio marketing can surpass your current strategies. Just go to radioactivemedia.com or text RANDOM to 511-511. Text RANDOM to 511-511 today. Terms, conditions, message, and data rates may apply. I'm heading back to Vegas to do stand-up for my last live dates of the year. I'll be there Friday, November 3rd and Saturday, November 4th. I will be at the David Copperfield Theater at the MGM Grand in Vegas, my new home. I mean, are you a tough parent? Are you a lax parent? Are you?
No, I'm pretty. I think most people would consider me strict. I mean, like an appropriate amount of boundary. Yeah, I'm pretty old-fashioned with that.
'Cause kids are fucking out of control.
Kids are a little bit out of control.
Just feral.
But I think
entitled.
yeah, it's well. Look, I mean, I
monsters. This is why people are upset about the abortion ruling, because no one wants to have a kid. No, really. I truly believe that.
Sorry.
It's also why
You're very funny.
It's also why anal is popular. I truly believe that.
To answer your point, what I think is important, and the reason that I was happy to come and talk to you, was that what I'd like to teach my children is they don't have to agree with every single thing that someone says, and that also doesn't mean that that person is bad, wrong, should be canceled, should never be spoken about, or two. And
preach, sister.
It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard.
I'm tough on parents and kids these days, but I also completely understand how hard it is to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because you're not doing it in a vacuum. That's the problem. If you somehow, and especially with the phone, where everything gets into them, and then whatever they're socializing in school with other people, and what those parents are doing. So you're always fighting all of society.
Well, my kids were homeschooled up until now. My older one just started going to school.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that's why we homeschooled, but a lot of people who homeschool, and we're not religious homeschoolers, although those exist, part of the reason that at least I felt comfortable in a homeschool environment was I knew it was small groups typically, and I knew a lot more about the people that my kids were talking to and interacting with, then, you know, I think a lot of people don't care. A lot of people are like, oh, put them with 40 kids and God bless you, that's fine.
Right.
But for me, you know, I call it like a positive sense of control, because you can't control everything.
You can't.
But I did enjoy knowing specifically what they were learning, how it was being taught. And, you know, I think also my kids have lived through a very interesting time where, you know, the Trump of it all, and I don't need to talk about Trump specifically, but it did bring up a lot of really important topics that I could talk about with my children in terms of, you know, how and when we decide to make judgments about people, how we organize our entire thought systems around what a group of people say, or do you know that that's true? And, you know, they also have a sense of levity about them, because this culture is poking fun at everything and everyone. And so they would, you know, there's memes and there's gifs. And
but the thing you said, which I loved, that your little list of things that you were teaching them, among them in there was this idea of you could be wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody who you don't agree with right away isn't necessarily wrong or bad.
Correct.
That kind of stuff, that's what I'm always preaching.
Yep.
My question is, why is that a heavy lift today with kids? Why do kids come, why it seems like the default setting on them is judgmental and I know everything, and especially with like generational stuff, like, oh, you people who think that humans are male and female, or obviously it's a jump.
Well, look, I think the thing that I've noticed, and I don't know that there's one answer to that, but, you know, I was raised in a very different time where, you know, I had a lot of ideas that my father in particular, bless his memory, would often shoot down, you know, and he was very smart. He was learned, he was worldly, and he was pretty old school. You know, he was born during World War II, and he was, you know, he was an anti-Vietnam activist, and he and my mom marched on Washington. They made anti-war documentaries. You know, they were advocating for a lot of the things that people are still advocating for in terms of our involvement with other countries and the atrocities that occur in other countries, often due to involvement that we sometimes have. I'm trying to be vague, but my older son recently said to me, and we were talking about something, he said, well, I don't agree with you, but you seem to like to intellectually humiliate me, so I'm not going to talk about it with you. And I remember being so taken aback. I mean, first of all, I was glad he said it, because I said, okay, now we can talk about this. But I said, you know, do you feel that I don't allow you to kind of have, you know, space for your own opinions? And he said, yeah. He said, a lot of times I feel like you have a very specific perspective and you know, can pull rank.
And you should.
Right, exactly.
Is the point. Like kids of any age can have an opinion, in my opinion.
Right.
But they then also need to be told, but your opinion doesn't count as much because you don't know as much.
Well, and
you
I think
couldn't possibly know as much. And there's a reason my opinion counts more. It's not just because I'm bigger or because you crawled out of my vagina. It's because I know things. We're back to knowing things.
Right, and I think that to speak to your point, you know, there is, I think, I don't mean to be that person who's like the internet, but when you have even adults, I don't even think it's about kids. When you have people,
it's true.
When you have people who want to believe that what they Googled is true, the information is so instantaneous. You don't have to do any research. You don't have to think about it. I think it does. It comes with a sense of entitlement and arrogance that I find problematic. And, you know, I see it a lot also, you know, as a scientist, the things that people think and believe that they Google about any number of scientific concepts is astounding. You know, it's astounding. Meaning,
on the left and the right, by the way.
100%.
Yeah,
no, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I don't. I
mean, the right doesn't really. I mean, they're finally, I think, coming around to global warming is man-made, and you know, and maybe we should do something about it.
Right.
The left was crazy wrong about a lot of COVID stuff.
Yep.
And I mean, not just me, who's been banging the drum, but other people who are more mainstream have said things like, it was just so wrapped up in the identity of being a liberal to be a COVID paranoid.
Correct.
And they're in the years to come, they're going to have to answer for a lot, because we're just going to find out more. We are finding out more and more how fucked up we were. Just the mental part is what we're finding out.
100%.
Like these shootings that we had, where the guy goes to somebody's door.
Yep.
And my ball rolled into your yard and I shoot you and you're turned around in my driveway. Now it's anecdotal, but I think we are a gun-laden country and we're a crazy country.
People love their guns
it also has, I think, something to do with that lockdown, and people forgot how to relate to each other, and people went nuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there are certain people who really like the isolation. There are certain people who learn to like it in different ways.
Then you can have yours. Just don't stop me.
Correct. Well,
crazy.
And
what we did to kids. I mean, you didn't have to worry because they were homeschooled to begin with, right?
It's kind of interesting. I mean, they did have classes, and eventually, there was this conversation of, we had some teachers in our homeschool community who said, I will not teach with a mask over my face.
So when you say homeschool, you're not doing it.
Well, I'm the working parent. I'm divorced. Their dad does some of their classes, and then there are little homeschool centers where there's 5, 10 kids in a class. So now that they're older,
which is just kind of an alternative school.
Yeah, well, except there's like 5 or 10 kids in a class.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not exact. That's somewhere between homeschooling, which I think of as just you're home and mommy's the teacher.
That's actually usually not what homeschooling is.
Really?
And when you think of sort of like the Christian model of homeschooling, when you think about, there's a lot of Christian homeschoolers, there's kind of that home house, kind of model. But, the things that happen when when my kids were little, that was what their life was like. But also it was a lot of time at the park. It was a lot of time on field trips. But yeah, now that they're in junior high and high school, it's smaller groups, but without a lot of the other things that schools have.
Well, if you need me to drop by,
I think we'll be good.
Uncle Bill, I can tell.
I think we'll be good.
I'm sure these kids look up to me, so I'd be happy to look. I know the kids need a father figure, and I would fit the bill perfectly.
I didn't know that's where this conversation would go, but there you have it.
That's the whole reason I'm having you here. I want to be kind of a godfather to your kids.
Nope, that sounds wrong.
And I've got a whole new list of movies we're going to watch. Okay, Midnight Cowboy, right? No, what about that one?
I haven't seen it yet.
That was rated, you never saw Midnight Cowboy?
No, I haven't seen it with them.
It was rated X at the time.
That's right.
That would probably intrigue them. And although it's probably so tame.
I'm trying to think, I'm trying to remember now.
I mean, what kids see on their phone, are you kidding? I mean, they were probably 10 when
It's Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
I mean, I just directed him in a movie that they did see.
What?
I wrote a movie, and I cast Dustin Hoffman and Candace Bergen in it, and I just directed it. So that they would love to see anything with Dustin Hoffman because they
What's
got to
your movie
meet Dustin.
about?
My movie was called As They Made Us. It's available on Showtime and other places people get movies.
It's out.
It is out.
Oh, I gotta see this.
Yeah, I wrote it. It was about a complicated family. He and Candace play the parents, and Simon Helberg from Big Bang Theory and Diana Agron play the siblings. And I wrote a movie about what happens in a complicated family when siblings have different reactions to how to deal with alcoholism and complexity.
It's amazing.
It's a heartbreaker, grab a tissue.
Okay, I like that. It's amazing how good actors get. Not that Dustin Hoffman wasn't good when he was young, but when they're old.
Oh, it's
because
he's a master. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I never thought that Dustin Hoffman would read my script and want to meet with me, but he did. And
how was he to work with?
It was unbelievable. He would show up every morning to set, say hi to the crew, see what we were doing that day. And we were a small film. This was a small film. And he wanted to know a lot about my family, because while it wasn't autobiographical, it certainly was a lot about my experience and other people who grew up like I did. He wanted to know everything. He just wanted me to keep talking. And It was like a master class. Like it was a master class, not just in acting, but
And did he take direction well?
oh, he wanted to be directed, and and that was also, a little intimidating. This is my first time directing.
No, that's what I'm saying. A guy like
No,
him.
he wanted to talk about it, and
great.
it was really, I mean, and he talked a little bit about, what it's like to be his age and playing the older guy, the old man.
I wonder what it's. I was just gonna say. I guess it's tough to be that, when you've been the leading man.
Totally.
And now you're, now you're playing grandpa.
I mean, look, him and Candace, they grew up together in real life, but seeing them together was really, it felt like we were watching a master class.
They grew up together in real life?
Yeah, their families were friends.
Really?
Yes.
Because they certainly were stars around the same time. I mean, I'm thinking about 1970. This was right after The Graduate. And she was in Carnal Knowledge, directed by Mike Nichols.
Yep.
And Art Garfunkel.
Well, seeing the two of them together and getting to direct them, it was, and her performance it's very, she's incredible.
Right.
And it was a very difficult character that she played. A lot of, look, I wrote very complex characters, and it's a lot of, it was heavy. It was really heavy. But anyway,
it's like a Jewish long day's journey into night, which I love, by the way. Long day's journey into night.
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
I don't think I have.
Try to sit your kids down in front of that one. They'll kill you. It's like 4 hours, and it's very heavy. Oh,
no.
It's a very
We'll do
long
Seven
day.
Samurai if I'm going to have them sit down for a long period of time.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying before about the dwindling little cadre of people who know things. The people who can sit through Long Day's Journey into Night, they've left me back with the dummies on that one. I mean, and I think I saw it once, but the idea of like sitting through something for 4 hours, a heavy, serious play.
Well, look,
I'm not that good.
I made a small movie that I had to shave down to, 90 minutes, if that. I think it clocked in at like 87 or something.
That's what a movie should be. Movies should be 90 minutes.
Well, you'll watch it and you'll tell me.
No, but I think all movies are too long these days.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes you got a lot to say.
Yeah, but that's what an artist has to do. You have to have the guts to kill your children.
I've killed many with this movie, so yes.
But that's what I feel like filmmakers today.
Oh, you mean you feel that there's
it's too long.
Got it. You mean it's gratuitous.
It's just you're not everything you thought of to put in this movie isn't genius. It's not merited to be James Bond movie was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's James Bond, okay? He fucks 3 hot chicks. He saves the world.
And there's a great song at the end.
Yeah. Exactly. There's 6 action sequences and there's a couple of quips. Thank you, Miss Hot Pussy.
I saw all of those in the theater.
Yes.
That was like my education as a kid.
And
looking back, I'm like, my mom thought that was cool? All right. My dad took us to James Bond movies. It made me the woman I am today.
I remember lobbying my mother to go see a Bond movie. I must have been about 11 or 12. I don't know how she'd have to take me. I don't think she would let me walk alone maybe they let us walk alone back then.
I was alone a lot.
But like now,
alone with other
now
kids,
you would be arrested. Like you would.
I was literally told, go out of the house, come back for dinner. I was raised like that.
Exactly.
I was raised like that. And I once crashed my bike. That was sad.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I grew up Melrose, Fairfax. I grew up right here in LA.
Wow.
Riding my bike a lot of hours of the day.
In the shadow of Cantor's?
Yes.
Did you
a little farther east.
Did you eat at Cantor's a lot?
We would go to Cantor's usually Sunday morning.
Really?
For rolls. My dad would get the New York Times, and my father would sit with a container of cream cheese and a cup of coffee, and he would spoon the cream cheese into the coffee and eat it.
For those listening in Nebraska, how would we describe Cantor's? We're talking about there is a Jewish district in LA, and
the highest concentration of Holocaust survivors in the world. That was the epicenter.
Is that right?
Now, Cantor's is not a kosher deli, but it is a beloved deli. Now, a kosher deli would be just meat products. It's an experience. The waitresses do not like you, and they don't pretend to.
I don't know what it is. I haven't been there in a while. I always loved it. It's
The
it's
bakery's
open
unbelievable.
24 hours.
It is open. There's
You'd
a
be
kibitz room.
I would be there like back when I was like wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
And I had a club, and then we'd go. Of course, the club's closed.
Yeah,
you're hungry
you go
or
to the
whatever,
kibitz room.
and
That's
you'd
right.
go. And it was one of the few places that was open.
Yeah, I would
And
go there late.
There'd be like, weirdos and hookers and cops. Plus
It was huge also. It was a huge restaurant.
Something about it you scream Judaism.
Yeah. Well, it was a deli.
Right.
I mean, it was a deli, and it
But
felt
the
a lot like
waitresses were not like young and cute.
No,
they were
no.
like they were
They didn't want to be there.
They were
They didn't want to serve you at midnight.
they were older and crabby
Yeah.
and
everything.
it was
They would bring all the dishes at once, throw them on the table, and walk away. See what would happen.
Oh man.
Look at us reminiscing about
Well,
cancers.
I could still go to Canner's.
Yes, you could.
I'm gonna take your kids, so I'm gonna
So this is
make
the
it my
date
business.
night with Uncle Bill.
Exactly. I'm gonna make it my business that these kids know what's up in this world from a male point of view. So you're divorced, huh?
Yeah, but they have a dad.
They do?
They do.
You still like him?
Yeah, I actually do still like him.
Oh, wow.
I do.
Then why didn't you still marry him?
We were friends for a year and a half. We were racquetball partners. We met in calculus class, and we dated for 5 years, and we were together for 10. And
Things just
I think if you see my movie, you might think I could see why her first marriage didn't work out.
Oh, I don't know about that, really.
There's a lot of complexity. I'd say I did a lot of I think we both did a lot of maturation post-divorce, and we parent nicely together. We parent like
But
friends.
also, okay, you had 5 years, you said, dating, 10 years married.
Right.
I don't think that's...
We didn't live together. Everybody's like, that was your problem. I don't
You
know.
did or did?
We did not live together before we got married. We were
probably
together
would have
5
been-
years, though.
It would have been shorter if you had lived together.
Look at that.
Because the whole problem always with relationships, it's never, no, not never, but it's very often not the people. The people are fine.
Right.
And the relationship is fine. You can tell because it worked at the beginning.
I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
It's just, no, humans are not meant, especially in this era,
Yep.
to you just burn it out.
The
You have
person
to-
that you pick I was 27 when I got married, and I'm pretty sure that most people who got married, and my mom was 18 and they stayed married forever, but I don't know if they should have. But yeah, the person you pick at 27 or 20, I don't know if that's the person you want to be with at 40. I mean, you're right.
I don't think it can be part that too, that people do grow and change.
Are people not allowed to grow and change?
No, they are, but it's
Sometimes
not.
they grow and
it's-
change
it's-
together.
But that's not it either.
You think
It's
just humans are not supposed to be monogamous like that? Like serial monogamy? Or who knows?
There's a book that came out about, I don't know, a year ago, and I read it was a little big thing for a minute. It was called, I think, On the Divine Tedium of Marriage. I think it's
Sounds
called
about right.
like Foreverland, something like that, on the divine. And
The thesis was?
I don't know about the thesis. I read the excerpt. I didn't read the book. But
Just the excerpt we're
But
going
wait,
on.
it was like 20 pages.
Okay.
Or maybe 10, but it was like a very long screed just about how much she hated her husband and how he was gross and phlegmy and made her wretch, and he was a pussy, and he was complaining, and he was just this pompous, sexless piece of shit. And I kept thinking, where's the divine part? I get the tedium part. I'm hearing that loud and clear, paragraph after paragraph.
Right.
And then there's like one paragraph, and at moments like that, I remember what a handsome professor he is. It's like, okay, great. So like every 6 months,
Yeah.
you get a flash of what used to be good.
Look,
And now that's an extreme, maybe.
For sure.
But
I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't.
Go ahead.
And I don't know how many of my friends might listen to this. So if you're listening to this, and you can assume I'm not talking about you, I don't see a lot of relationships where I'm like, that's a healthy union. These
Right.
are two people who respect it. This is a woman who respects him as a man. This is a man. Sorry, I have gay friends also, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, I
There's
do.
not. Let's take away the gender or
Right.
the sex or whatever we're calling it. I do not often see couples where I think
Right.
these people are mutually connected for a reason that seems significant, and they show each other mutual respect. I don't see it a lot. I don't.
or affection, or like, I met I wouldn't say who, but a very famous person.
Okay. Yeah, don't say
a
who.
while ago, and like last week, and I mean he's upper age bracket, and he and his wife, they have a real. She has a real girlfriend vibe about it. I said to my friend, I said, she's so cool. She has a girlfriend vibe, not a wife, not a wife vibe.
Huh.
That's what you have to try to keep.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I have seen that. I
No,
have
I
seen
get what you
people who
mean.
have, yeah.
I'm not that I'm saying that women are the only part of the problem, but there's a set of needs, and I think, look, as a person who gave birth to children, there's a lot of psychological, physiological, and emotional changes that occur that often make us have a different set of needs depending
You know when you
on
know
the
it's
day.
over, I think.
When is it over, Bill?
No, now it's on you. It sounds like you really don't want it.
No, I'm ready.
Oh.
Sorry.
So-
My kids often say, "Are you being sarcastic?"
Yeah,
no,
I was like-
I want to hear what you're going to say.
Like when you're out, you're not.
Yep.
I mean, we're not having sex. We're just out.
You and I are not having
no,
sex.
No, we're out. I'm saying this couple.
Correct. They're out.
They're out. They're not having sex at this moment. They're out.
Yeah.
So you're at a dinner or you're having drinks with somebody.
Yes.
But there is, even though it's not sexual in nature per se, there is physical communication going on. Like, you don't have to be all over the person, but you're kind of touching.
Yeah, that's important.
And it's kind of like there's just a little electricity that's still going on.
Yep.
And it's almost kind of sexy that you're in a place where you can't do it.
Yes.
Or,
Well, that's that teenage feeling.
and
It's important.
then when you have like the two separate chairs to watch TV, like All in the Family, and there's no, what was Edith's big wish in life? That Archie would just touch me. You don't have to even fuck me, Archie. Just show me some, you know what I mean? And I think when that stops, the relationship doesn't end the next day.
Sure.
The problem is then you're into that period where it's just going in the wrong direction in that way, and but you don't want it to end because you still love the person.
Sure.
And you have a lot of other things about it that are good.
Well, and if you have kids, it becomes very
and
complicated.
kids, of course.
It's
But
complicated.
if that dies,
You're right.
It's
and I think that's, I do sometimes see that in couples that I know who have stayed married, but I think that for those of us, who do get divorced, there's a new opportunity to see what it's like to find that and be able to maintain it. And how do you maintain it? Like there are ways that
the old joke.
What's the old joke?
Why are divorces so expensive?
Why?
They're worth it. No, really. Things run their course.
Yeah.
You ran its course.
Right.
There's no tragedy.
No.
And then you're right.
Who is it? A Louis C.K., a person I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about. He has an amazing.
you are.
I know. With you, I can. But who knows? But he has when he announced that he was getting divorced in his special, and everybody said, he said, don't make that sound.
Right.
He said, this is a good thing.
It is.
Like,
By the
when
time-
people get divorced, it's because a lot of bad things were happening.
Exactly. By the time the divorce happens,
Right.
it's
It's a bracha. Sometimes it's a bracha.
And it's just very hard to fight burning it out, and just it's like something that and it tortures you because you look at that person and you go, I should be all over you. It's just we've just done it too many times in a row, and you're there every day. Really.
Well,
so it's like something that's numb.
Look,
that shouldn't be numb.
We are primates. We're primates,
right.
and there's a novelty component to relationships.
And
Look, I look at my parents, and they were practically siblings. When you get married at 18 and 20, it's like they grew together. They happen to grow in a similar way. They happen to have all these strange quirks about them that kept them sustained, and they were crazy about each other. And when my father he was in a wheelchair at the end of his life, and my mother said, when he is wheeled into a room, my heart skips a beat.
Wow.
And and honestly, many times in my life, I was like, are you sure you should still be married? This was a complicated relationship, but they had that spark. I mean, he was still writing her poems. I inherited his library when he died, and every fifth book it's inscribed to her, you know, and
mean,
like it's very sweet.
The thing is, in life, that does exist.
Yeah.
That's what keeps the other 99% of poor schmucks miserably trying to attain that, because every one out of 100
Imagine
people.
being their child and having to get divorced. And I'm like, oh man. And also like, I come from a traditional, like in, you know, Jews, we don't do that. It's like, so it was like, oh, they did that and I didn't. But you know what? There was some grieving involved for me, but I feel like I've come out on the other end of it.
Someone once described marriage as a brother-sisterly relationship with occasional bouts of incest.
I've heard this before. I've heard this before.
It's so often true.
I mean,
and then there's sex freaks like your parents who were just
stop.
no.
I don't know.
I don't.
You
never
know.
think about your parents?
I don't. We don't have to right now. Why start now? You know, why start now?
Well, listen. This was so much fun. I'm
This
so
was really
glad
good.
I got to know you.
I'm very glad.
I hope it's not the last
I
time.
hope it's not the last
I mean,
time.
of course I'll see the kids,
It's like,
but I want to see you too.
yeah, and you know, I'm gonna officially say I would love to have you come talk to us on our podcast if you'd ever be open to it.
Absolutely.
I think you're fascinating. I think
thank you.
you're brave in ways you shouldn't have to be. I don't always agree with you. I don't always agree with the things you say, but I wanted to do this honestly so I could show my children that I put my, you know, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk, and I don't have to agree with you on everything to sit with you and talk with you.
When I do this with you next,
Yes.
I want you to bring in the things you think I'm wrong about where you don't agree with me.
Okay. But also bring in my children because I want them to meet you.
Yeah, and they'll get a good lesson in disagreeing is okay.
Club Random.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Are you getting up and leaving?
Yeah.
I just sit here?
No.
Oh, we both get up.
Or, you know.
Oh, okay.
Random.